G'day, fools. I'm Scott Phillips, the Motley Fool's Chief Investment Officer here in Australia, and welcome to our marquee feature of our YouTube channel. Yeah, this is pretty much the pinnacle. This is Motley Fool Stock of the Month. We're not very imaginative when it comes to titles. It's a company recommendation. We do it once a month, hence it's Stock of the Month. What's important about it? This is the one time we pull back the curtain on a current Motley Fool recommendation, a buy recommendation, no less. Now, I will say very clearly up front, this is done at a point in time. We're recording this in very early September 2025. Anything could change, right? So the internet's forever. If you're watching this in 28 years' time, you'll know better than us what happened next. What we are saying is at this point, based on what we know, based on the circumstances, the valuations, all the stuff, we're going to give you a Motley Fool recommendation for free. Why do we do it? Two things. We're trying to educate people. We kind of think it's important. We're a for-profit company, by the way. It's not a charity, but we try and kind of help and share some of this stuff we do on the podcast, we do on the YouTube channel. Lots of free stuff around the place. Is it good for business? Yeah, sure. If you like what we do and we're good at it, maybe you'll have a look at us, and that's cool too. So we're not pretending this is purely altruistic, but hopefully we get both of those things done in this space, in sharing Motley Fool Stock of the Month with you. Now, I say we, it's always one of the Motley Fool star analysts, but this time it's Darius Zarghami. Darius, g'day.
G'day, Scott. How you going?
Mate, I'm very well. Thanks for joining me. Mate, we're going to pull back the curtain on a company called PWR. Now, because codes and acronyms are funny things, the code is not PWR. So let me get this out of the way up front. PWH is the code. I believe PWR is PWR automotive. So PWH, if you're playing along at home, a quick aside, I annoy the investment team here at the Motley Fool all the time by insisting that we call companies by their names, not their tickers. Now, why? They're interchangeable, right? We know that WOW is Woolworths. Who cares? Who cares? The answer is if you start to think about it that way, kind of changes your thinking. And it's a really tiny thing, right? There's the whole thing about what your thoughts, they become your words become your actions become habits. That kind of happens. So if we make ourselves think about companies, not ticker codes on investments, it brings us into a better place, I think. At least that's my obsession. Darius is smiling ruefully because he knows exactly what I'm like. Mate, let's talk about PWR, code PWH, the company. We'll do that. I'll ask you why you think it's a buy. I'll ask you to share with our viewers the risks, some things they want to know before they think about investing, and I'll get you to wrap it up at the end. So what is PWR?
Yeah, so PWR, it's been around for almost 40 years, and it's really a leader in manufacturing technologically advanced cooling systems. It's actually most famously known for having its cutting-edge solutions found in every single Formula One team's vehicles, including Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, just all of them, really. And it's these relationships that have really formed the bedrock of the company's motorsports division, and really what it was kind of founded on as well. And motorsports is its largest division at the moment. It makes up around 50% of its revenue. And it's also where the company was born, as I mentioned. It was really born out of a need for better quality radiators, better quality cooling systems within V8 cars in Australian racing. And today, while you won't see it if you watch racing on the TV, the tech is very internal to the vehicles. You don't watch the race and see PWR's solutions everywhere. They're in the vehicle. But it really has a strong presence in all aspects of Formula One, MotoGP, IndyCar, NASCAR, many other races and competitions, really. But PWR has expanded beyond motorsports. It's been going for 40 years, so it's had plenty of time to do so. And it really operates through 4 distinct divisions, including its motorsports division, which, as I mentioned, is its largest. Its products are used by major global companies, and they're really quite critical to its customers. And it's really what keeps them competitive in the market. The second largest segment for the company behind its motorsports division is its aerospace and defense segment. It accounts for about 20% of revenue at the moment, but it's one of its newest and really fastest growing segments, I think, in my view. Here, the company provides basically manufacturing, design, and integration of its cooling systems for, as the name would suggest, the aerospace and defense sectors. This includes things like land, air, sea-based applications. So it's not just sort of one area of the defense or one area of aerospace. But perhaps the most, I think, exciting part of this opportunity is what's called the electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircrafts, which is the acronym is, or the abbreviation, I guess, is EVTOL. So it's developing these, and these are basically like big drones. They require a lot of cooling. There's massive batteries in them, and a lot of power is required. And so this really presents a big opportunity for PWR that I'll probably touch on a little bit later. The
Very
next
cool.
largest
Go on.
segment is its automotive aftermarket segment. As the name would suggest, again, very obviously easily named, provides radiators, intercoolers, fans, things like that for people who are looking to upgrade their vehicles. It's only a smaller segment. Not expecting massive growth from this segment. And then finally is its OEM segment. So OEM stands for original equipment manufacturer. It's about a similar size to the aftermarket segment, but I would like to see more growth from this segment. I'd expect more growth in this segment. Basically, PWR's solutions can be found in many luxury cars from brands like Porsche, Aston Martin, Pagani, and they're really used in everything from internal combustion engine, hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles. And I see a big opportunity here as well from its OEM segment, more so than its aftermarket segment, I think. But that's really PWR in a nutshell.
And that's a lovely summary. Thanks for taking us through it. I confess the first time I saw PWR was actually an aftermarket radiator with the kind of company logo print on the front of the radiator. I was watching a four-wheel drive channel or something. They were putting this thing in. It was just, very, very cool. And of course, then from there, aftermarket for four-wheel drives or for performance cars right through aerospace and defense and electric vehicles. It's been an incredible story. Kind of cool to think of this little Australian company. I think it's in Newcastle or Gold Coast or something.
Gold
and
Coast.
they're supplying, Formula One teams right around the world. It's a very, very cool little under the radar success story, which is awesome. Now, look, that's true. And you've probably given us some of the pros, some of the reasons why we think it's a buy. But let me drill down on that one. I'll ask you to do it anyway. What is it about the company, for everything we've just talked about? What makes it a buy recommendation? Why do we think it's a market-beating idea?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, every Formula One racing team has chosen to partner with PWR for their cooling needs. And really, Formula One is arguably the most popular and prestigious motorsport there is. So having 100% market share in this segment, or in this race, I think it essentially demonstrates to the world that PWR manufactures the best cooling solutions in the world. Further, really, the fact that these high-performing vehicles, both in Formula One and in other racing competitions, they require really unique cooling systems. Each car is different. Each race is different. Everything's different about these vehicles. I think that the fact that they require such a unique system, it's a real competitive advantage for PWR that they're able to provide that. And really, PWR works in collaboration with each of these motorsports companies and brands and things to design and refine these custom-made cooling solutions, which really makes them very, very ingrained in those companies' systems or manufacturing systems. And it's really the reason that they're in such high demand as well, because they're providing such a high-quality solution. The rigorous systems and processes, and those are really a prerequisite for the company to delivering their products to the key market. And they have plenty of certifications and things that help them to do that other companies just won't have. I actually visited PWR's facility in Ormo, I believe it was at the time. It was in Ormo a few years ago. And the amount of testing that they put the prototypes and the final units and things through is insane. They have this massive, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a wind turbine that basically fires hot air at like hundreds of degrees at the cooling unit. Okay. And then just to show how strong these cooling units are, hundreds of degrees goes through the cooling unit, and it comes out at ambient temperature. It's insane. And if it doesn't come out at ambient temperature, and that's after like 8 hours, they just pummel it with hot air. If it doesn't come out at ambient temperature, not good enough, they won't use it. Wow. That's how stringent their testing is. But moving on. New regulations is a really good thing for the company as well. So the growth in the motorsport segment recently has actually slowed a little bit. It's still strong, but it's slowed a little bit. And this is actually due to new regulations that are coming into effect in 2026 in motorsports. The FIA, which is the Federation, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. It's a French company. They're the main regulator for global motorsports, and they've introduced what they're calling more agile, competitive, and safer, more sustainable racing. And what this really means is that's their chief focus for FY20 or 2026 for the F1 season. And what this really means is the companies, the racing companies at least, are going to need to redesign their power units. They're going to need more battery power, a more even split of internal combustion versus electric power, all these different things to make it more sustainable. But at the same time, what this does is it creates an increased importance on cooling within the vehicles, because battery vehicles need a lot of cooling. And so these changes, I think, especially with PWR's strong relationships with the racing teams, means that there's a big opportunity for PWR here to capture that and to earn a lot from that. But moving to the aerospace and defense segment that I mentioned before, I think this is really where the company agrees with me that management highlighted this. This is where the future growth engine of the business is really going to be. Currently, the major growth in this segment is coming from that eVTOL market that I mentioned. They're small electric powered vehicles, vertical takeoff. These can be used in civilian and military uses, but what they really require is a lot of power. They have massive batteries in them that draw a lot of power, but also create a lot of heat. And so this means they need really reliable cooling solutions as well, similar to the motorsport segment. In this segment, PWR estimates that the global opportunity, or the global market in its entirety, is about 15.3 billion US. PWR is only very small in this segment, only producing around $27 million, Australian, in this segment in FY25. But I think it's really poised for strong growth. The company has a number of different A&D programs on the go right now, and in these, 80% of its revenue from these is actually already secured and locked in. They just have to, produce the final result that they're trying to achieve. But lastly, I just quickly want to touch on PWR's recent investments. So the company didn't have a solid FY25. They were instead they called it a transition year. And what they were really doing there was investing for the short term. They were looking to expand production capacity through a new manufacturing facility. They were obtaining additional regulatory certifications, enhancing infrastructure, increasing their headcount to support those projects that I mentioned before in the A&D segment. And what this really meant for the company was its profit was lower. Its result was a lot weaker in FY25 than I or the market would have probably liked. But what this has also meant is its shares at the time of recording are down almost 40% from their all-time highs in February 2024. And I think this decision to invest in the long term, I think especially at the expense of the short term, which it's not great for a trader. It's not great for someone who's only looking to the next 6 months. But for us as long-term investors, I think this really creates a lot of potential. And I think it will pay off. It'll pay dividends in the long term, especially with the growth potential in both motorsports and A&D. The company's still in a strong position financially. It's reliably profitable. So such investment really, to me, it makes sense, and it should hopefully enable a step change towards future growth. But those are the things I really like about PWR.
Nice, mate. Great summary. A bit of short-term pain for hopefully some significant long-term gain.
Exactly.
When we do our recommendation of the Motley Fool, if you remember, you know this. If you're not yet, maybe you might join. Have a think about that. But in the meantime, just so you know, we always tell members why we like it. We're not trying to balance off 50-50 here, right? We find companies we like and we say, here's why we like them. But we always say, and by the way, here's some of the risks. Here's where we might sell. Here's what we're watching out for. Because sometimes risks come to pass. That's the nature of investing. It's what we do. So Darius, maybe just run through for us a couple of those risks and when we'd sell, some of the reasons or some of the things at least our viewers might like to know and be aware of before they do commit any money, if they do, to shares in PWR.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, PWR, I just mentioned it then actually, PWR invested really heavily in increasing its capacity. It's building a new facility at Stapleton. And I think this invest now, collect later strategy is smart but there's really no guarantee that that investment will actually pay off. Defense spending can be fickle, motorsport regulations can change, things can change really quickly, and there's no guarantee that demand will continue as it has been and will remain as strong. It does seem like defense spending will increase in the future, particularly in the areas that PWR is servicing, but all it takes is a change of government for that to be taken away. This is particularly a risk for the A&D segment, which, as I mentioned, is expected to be PWR's future growth driver and was the main driver behind a lot of that investment in the new facility. Further, with the new racing regulations I mentioned earlier, EVs are an important part of PWR's growth too. Late last year, though, PWR announced 3 niche electric vehicle projects that it was working on had announced that they were no longer going to proceed, despite PWR receiving purchase orders, so this was largely locked in. No further projects have been cancelled at the moment, but it's a reminder that the electrical vehicle industry, it's ever evolving, and further losses could really stifle PWR's growth in this space, I think. But it's important to remember that the business has many channels through which it can grow, but that's nevertheless a risk to keep in mind. One final risk that I do want to raise relates to the company's founder. So it was or is, I guess, still founder-led, but Keith Wheel, the company's, I think he's the managing director, or was at least. He unfortunately had a medical issue back in, I think it was June, and he has stepped down, at least in most of his role while he recovers. And there's really no guarantee that he'll come back or what capacity he'll come back in. So I guess he was an integral part of the company's growth, an integral part of the company's success. What does that really mean for the company's management team moving forward? Can they find a management team that's as capable, that shares his vision? But with the company 40 years on from its beginnings, I think it's not so much one person that drives the growth of the company and the future of the company. I think it's a culture. And Keith Wheel really has worked hard to build that culture in the company. So I think it's not that big of a risk, but it is something to be mindful of. So those are the risks I'd probably consider with an investment in PWR.
Very nicely done. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we do like founder owners. Never nice when someone steps aside. It's going to happen eventually by definition, but never welcome. But as you say, if they've built the right business behind them, then hopefully things go from strength to strength. Let's sum it up, mate. Let's do the elevator pitch, 30 to 60 seconds. Let's round it out. You've given us the company detail. You've given us the investment case. You've told us about some of the risks. But let's do a quick elevator pitch. Why would our viewers consider buying shares in PWR?
I'll keep it short. I think I see plenty of growth in the coming years from PWR, both from its established motorsport segment, which, as I mentioned, has those new regulations coming in, but really from its emerging aerospace and defense segment. There's so much opportunity from the eVTOL market there. It's been investing heavily into innovating into new areas. And what I see is PWR investors, or people looking to invest in PWR at the moment, have the opportunity to invest in a really high quality company with a solid balance sheet, proven profitability, proven reliability. But with that recent share price decline due to it investing in the short term, I think you have an opportunity to do so at a much more reasonable valuation.
There you have it, fools. PWR. The code is PWH, just to double underline that. Darius, thanks for sharing your thoughts about the company. Thanks for watching. Until we see you next time. Fool on.